To be
Um,
honest with you, Andy, I mean, I went and got the link for you, and I didn't check it either. And then I went to listen to it prior to this, and I went, "Oh no, it's 12 minutes. He's going to be delighted." Um, hey, oh, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Les Audiophiles. I'm John. He's Andy. Every day she wears the same thing. I think she smokes pot. She's everything I want. She's everything I'm not. Oh, have you got nothing to say? She never gets wet. She smiles, and it's a rainbow. Oh, well. And she speaks, and she breathes. I want to be more on that later. But first, we've got a song to listen to. So it's Friday, which means, of course, yes, it is. Which means, of course, it is now that we are listening to a song suggested by one of our wonderful viewers. This one has been suggested by Sunrays One, Sunrays whatever. They dropped a comment in the episode, Say Anything, Alive with the Glory of Love.
all right.
Go check that out if you haven't watched it already. And the suggestion is for a band which I kind of know of, but I'm struggling. I think I've heard, but I haven't. And Andy hasn't either. So we flipped the coin, spun the bottle, and Andy's turn. So yeah, it was Red House Painters. And the track is Make Like Paper.
Yes, yes, it is. And I'm looking very much forward to giving this a listen. I don't really have any idea of what I'm getting into with these guys. I've heard their name before, and that is literally it. So I don't know what their sound is or even how long they've been around or when they started. So I'm flying fairly blind here, but I'm looking forward to giving this tune a listen and checking it out.
Excellent. Well, you scurry off, do your thing, come back and regurgitate.
Will do, will do. Loving the dynamic of this like kind of methodical chugging heavier guitar. It's more muscular sound that's kind of met with this lovely picking finessing of the guitar as well. So it's this interesting dynamic between these two sounds that the guitar can provide, all kind of packaged up and working together in the sound. Drums come in steady, nothing fancy, but they're keeping that, as I used the term earlier, methodical kind of beat, this slow but persistent movement forward. I'm really liking the sound of this very much so far.
Halloween in New York, on the way home from London.
I mean, it's not it doesn't sound exactly the same at all, but at times when he's delivering his line, it almost reminds me of like a young Neil Young. Um, it's a little nasally, a little reedy, but it sounds good. I like it. I actually very much like it. There's plenty of bands where the singer is imperfect by all, like, vocal teachers criteria, but this is still it still has this quality of I don't know. I guess it pairs so well with the music that's going on in the sound. It's just the motif, I think, fits this. It lends itself to the sound. So yeah, I'm liking the singer thus far, and I'm liking the music. We've got a lot of time left, so I have no idea where we're gonna go from here, and if my interest that is peaked right now will maintain. But let's see where it goes.
She slept in a room where I didn't feel welcome.
It's not a good feeling.
Turning round
Minis.
all over the ground. Leaves make like paper, make like paper sound.
Nice bass. I love this not being in a rush to get into the next verse. I'm assuming that last bit where it sounded like there were double vocal tracks or harmonization going on, that was the chorus. And instead of rushing to get back into the next verse, they're letting the song breathe a little bit. And from what I catch of the vocal or the lyrics, like maybe just some of the sentimental weight behind what's being said, giving that time to breathe and doing some stuff here with the guitar, it just creates all this space, this real estate, this sonic real estate for just the song to unfold a little bit. It's not rushed. You know, this isn't the cookie cutter way to create a radio song, it sounds like. And looking at the timestamp of 12:04, that's not what they've gone for. But I love that. I really admire them, knowing what they're sacrificing to capture this sound that is probably genuine to what they wanted. And again, big respect for that. Loving this. I gotta say. Um, First of all, that was really interesting stuff what they just did there. And they filled a lot more space than I had kind of anticipated. Sounds like they're getting ready for another verse. But what they did there was like just obviously amazing guitar work where you're fluctuating, almost like a manic episode where things are going at one rate and then another, and then this rate even greater than the previous, and it's all changing. And when you have that kind of like almost chaotic dissonance in the guitar playing for the rhythm section to just anchor that shit to the floor and keep everything together without falling into the trap of speeding up or falling back or just letting that guitar work get into your head as like a rhythm musician in the band. You can't get caught up in that, and they're focusing on their task at hand and keeping everything in this pocket while the guitar just does all of this really interesting fun stuff. I mean, we had chugging, we had laser beams, we had, falling off the tracks kind of dissonance happening there. It was just all really, really good, interesting stuff. I really, really enjoyed that a bit. I don't want to, it's a 12-minute track, so I don't want to take it back on you guys. I'm going to listen to this again, believe me. But I do want to take it back just a little bit so we can slide into whatever's happening next here. I don't know if it's the same tempo or one really close, but every time those first two beats come in, I think it's going to go into, like, I don't know why my brain's doing this, but Cortez the Killer. So I'm about to hear, like, I catch myself going, came dancing across the water. I'm like, this is not the same song. I don't know why that's in my head. But yeah, just, I don't know. The tempo, I guess, reminded me of that and how those two beats come in. But yeah, let's press on and get out of the stream of consciousness.
Way back then, I considered you my best friend. But the last time I saw you, I knew I'd never see you again.
Oof, that's heavy.
You lived in a place off Chambly, Dunwoody way. I took up his space when they took your father away.
That bend. Well, I loved that little bit. Just that perfectly timed cutout just kind of helps bring everything back. Loved it. guitar.
All over the ground. These make like paper.
Yeah. I like, there are times where like this can is catching like the sort of a little bit back in the mix higher guitar stuff that's happening, and there's also times where it's catching these like swooping bass kind of runs a little bit. Kind of reminds me of Nate Mendelsohn, is it, from the Foo Fighters, and I think Sunny Day Real Estate. Yeah, definitely akin to that. In fact, I'm getting a lot shades of different bands from this. I'm getting like some Failure, some Hum, some very early, as in the first two albums, kind of Foo Fighters stuff. Uh, all of which checks the box for me. So really multiple boxes. So this is really good stuff. I'm loving, again, here's this chunk of a song where they're just letting the damn thing breathe and doing and adding little bits and pieces as it progresses and sort of takes on its own life. Similar to how they did, I believe, after the first chorus, if I'm not mistaken, before rushing into that next verse. This is just, yeah, you're getting the vocally, you're getting the chorus multiple times, but the music is different, and it's little things are being added or taken away or altered, and that is making for a lovely listening experience.
Paper sound.
Yeah, this is just great. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that was awesome. Um, I love that ending. It was almost like, because it was a 12-minute song and there was all of the constant playing at the end there, where they were just like, it really became like a marathon. And all the musicians and then their instruments kind of finish the song the way you see some marathon runners crossing the finish line. It's very rarely a pretty sight when you see somebody putting in that last 50 feet and crossing the line, beleaguered, pulling themselves across, shambolic in some cases, and that sound, it kind of fell to the finish, and I like that. I think it makes perfect sense, and there's almost like some charm or humor behind that because of what you just listened to for the 12 minutes leading up to it. So it all kind of makes sense and checks out. This was the two guitars in that last, I don't know, shit, what was it, 3 minutes at least, they were just so good together, and the mixing was so well where you're getting one in one can and the other in the other. The drums and the bass are also mixed really, really well in this track. So kudos to those who produced this because it sounded lovely. It sounded mixed so well. This is interesting. I don't know this. I would venture to say that this is newer than some of the stuff it's taking from. I could be completely wrong, and I'll own it if I am. But this sounds like music that was made, I don't know, anywhere after 2010. But it looks like it's taking from early to mid 90s alt rock. Not so much the grunge stuff, but like or the post grunge stuff, but like um there's like this slow core kind of sound to it. The song February Stars by the Foo Fighters comes to mind as far as, some of the tempo and the pace and even the bass work in this. Yeah, again, bands like Hum and Failure come to mind as well. So this is interesting. I'd like to know who who influenced them and their sound. Maybe I won't get that from John. Maybe I will, but it's something that I'd like to look up just on my own anyway at some point. I'd like to hear more of these guys. If the first song I'm listening to is this very hard to digest 12-minute song that actually went over really well with me, I would imagine I'd like some of their other stuff. So, you know, I'll probably be checking out more of these guys in the future. But that was an excellent listen. I'm not gonna bullshit you. When I saw 12 minutes, I thought, oh God, this better be good because if it's not, what am I gonna do? But it was great. All 12 minutes were well spent, and I enjoyed um pretty much every aspect of this song. So I'll be interested to learn more about it and the band, and the only way to do that is to get back to our friend John.
Boom shakalak, he's back. So, what did you make of that?
Yeah, that was quite the extended exodus there that I had. I was not expecting a 12-minute rock odyssey. When I saw the timestamp, I thought, "Oh my God, this thing better be good. This is 12 minutes."
To be honest with you, Andy, I mean, I went and got the link for you, and I didn't check it either. And then I went to listen to it prior to this, and I went, "Oh no, it's 12 minutes. He's going to be delighted." And they certainly weren't in any hurry at all, were they?
No, they weren't. But I will say, it all worked out. It all worked out in the end, and it doesn't matter how long a song is as long as I like it. And I really, really enjoyed this listen a lot. Actually, there were a lot of shades of other bands that we've listened to on this channel or that we've at least talked about that I was able to hear in their sound. And some of the decision making that they employed sacrificed the radio friendly quality to it, and probably flew in the face of what a lot of like big time record execs would suggest you do or producers suggest you do, but they stuck to what I believe is their guns and their own convictions, and in doing so I think created a really interesting 12-minute song with what they did here. I mean, it starts off with this really like. I loved the guitar that started off because it did two things that are like almost diametrically opposed to one another. Where it has this like chugging, distorted kind of masculinity to it, you know, like this oomph. But that is countered by the occasional like flourish of guitar picking that was so pretty, held up against that sort of chugging motif. So I really loved how the guitar brought that. And then when the drums came in, they didn't do anything crazy, but they brought stability and pace and tempo to the song. So everything kind of like coalesced really well from right out of the beginning, as far as like capturing my attention, giving me what I like, giving me a little bit of diversity in the guitar sounds. Um, and the singer joins in with this like semi-nasally, little bit slightly reedy kind of delivery. And I loved it. It was not a perfect voice. There will be like vocal teachers who will say, "Oh God, don't do this." But I thought it captured the, I don't know, his voice hovered between laissez-faire and lackadaisical and like dejected or resigned to something he did not want to be resigned to. And I loved that because I think it meshed well with the music and how it sounded. So packaged all together, it worked. If you put that voice over, some Italian opera piece, I'd be like, this is horrible shit. What are we doing here? But in this, under this umbrella,
Get rid of the opera piece, yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I really, really liked how that sounded. I was kind of surprised, and almost at points when he would go high with it a little bit, it almost reminded me of like a young Neil Young, where he had like a little bit of that sound to his voice. So I thought that was kind of interesting too. I might be alone on an island in hearing that, but that was my experience, and it warmed me to it. The chorus utilizes either vocal harmonization or just two vocal tracks, one sung in a higher register and laid directly over top of it, singing the same thing. It wasn't like the one voice hung on a word and carried it out. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I don't know, but I believe it was the same vocalist double tracking.
Okay, double tracking with a pitch difference in the
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
That makes sense too. So yeah, I really liked that addition, especially during the chorus, just to give it a little bit, because the chorus wasn't super different wasn't super different from the verse.
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell, but it could use some extra like little pieces here and there to help delineate its sound from what preceded it and what would eventually come after it. And I'll get back to that in a second. So that one other thing, the way that the verse is like almost like two beats, like dun, dun, and then it goes into the riff. Dun, dun, It reminded me of, again, I can't get this out of my head, but Cortez the Killer, when he's like, the line like dun, dun, dancing across the water, and just like the room that line has to breathe. It was almost similar to the room that he had to work with his vocals in this. So I just kept wanting to sing that line after every two beats for some reason. But yeah, my brain went there. But after the that first chorus that I mentioned, there's no rush to get back to the next verse. And that is something, when I said earlier that this thing kind of flies in the face of like radio friendliness, or what a record exec would tell you to do or suggest you do. This flew in the face of that. It gave it all this room to breathe. And I think that that's important in this song and songs like this, because from what I could hear and what my brain was allowing me to catch when not trying to focus on the music, there is some sentimental weight to the words that he's saying. And I think that needs room to breathe and resonate, and you need to sit in that for a little bit. So what they do is they continue the rhythm, which is very, same-ish, but this guitar does all of this really interesting shit over top of it to kind of to give it a little different life and not make you feel like you're just going through the monotonous like repetition of the same sound, which I know we're not. It's not like either of us hate that, but I can understand how that would like wear on people. But the ability to add these different little guitar bits that they're doing, I don't know, it keeps it fresh. So from like the 2:30 marker all the way until the 4:15 marker, the guitar goes on this meandering, almost dissonant stroll, which was just stellar, with all these different twists and turns, highs and lows, throughout the whole motif. And I'll say this again later, I'm sure, but hats off to the rhythm section for keeping everything tethered to the earth. Because I've said this before, when we have guitar parts like this, if that rhythm section doesn't like hold the gate, that shit is someone's gonna speed up or fall back, and it's all gonna come off the rails, and they didn't. So hats off to the bass player, who also at times you hear these lovely little fills that are going on from here and there. He reminded me so much of I think it's Nate Mendelsohn from Foo Fighters and Sunny Day Real Estate, and his bass playing style. And that is, by the end of this song, I was actually taken to songs like February Stars off of The Color and the Shape, their Foo Fighters' second album. Those first two albums, there was some of what was going on here was that, but obviously they threw the whole like, let's make this radio friendly thing throughout the window. But the sounds and the tones and stuff kind of took me to that era in rock and roll. Also, Failure, other kind of bands that came to mind when I was listening to this. So it was very much this alternative 90s rock kind of sound, but mixed with a more modern, let's explore this sound and play with it, almost like slow core shoegaze type shit that was happening in this, which is really cool. But you could tell, or at least I felt you could tell, where their influences came from. At least it sounded like that. So anyway, great job during that whole long guitar bit after the verse. By the 5:15 marker, the singer begins the second verse, which is, we're 5:15 and we're now getting a second verse. That shows you how much room they created between that chorus and the second verse. And it was here where this lyric really stuck out to me. And normally I'm a sucker for symbolism and metaphor and all that, but this just cuts right to the chase. Way back then, I considered you my best friend. But the last time I saw you, I knew I'd never see you again. And that's just fucking sad, man. So that really hit me, and there was no having to like comb through and decipher what meant. No, he just cut right to it, and when he cut to it, that then gives the words that the ability to cut. Like you feel them, and it resonates with you if you've ever lived anything similar to that. So it concisely sums up the sentiment, which matches perfectly with the somber, sad, stuttered steps of the musical pacing that this song has. And during what I believe is the next iteration of the chorus, after he delivers the lines about the leaves sounding like paper, the drums cut out just momentarily. And it allows for this standalone guitar to kind of to stand out. And then after a couple notes, the drum crashes back in, and this repeats a couple times. And I find myself loving this portion. I know it's a very simple decision to choose like a momentary cutout of the drums and letting the guitar fill that space, but for some reason that really, and when the drums came back in, it was like, I don't know, it was like muscle memory. It was as if I was there when they wrote the song, because I like came down right when that drum hit back in, like I knew right when it was coming in, and it just felt so good and natural, like it belonged there. And the song continues with this repeating of the lyrics of the chorus while the music persists and crashes all around those words. And I love the great high guitar work slightly back in the mix that was coming through this can. It was almost like that high guitar and sort of this like the rhythmic bass fills were switching what was being heard through that ear on my end, and I really, really enjoyed that. And then you had like the chugging chords and splashing cymbals as well, kind of coming in through here, and everything was just really lovely. And this continues with minor variations here and there for minutes. And I really enjoyed how the band didn't rush this to make it more radio friendly, and that they all kind of like just let it breathe and build and progress. And things finally come to this semi-disjointed end with the musicians and their instruments crossing the finish line like an exhausted marathon runner. You could almost feel the exhaust in them having played for 12 straight minutes. Or at least that they created that feeling, right, with the way this thing kind of, like, I don't want to say petered out, but they all kind of crossed the finish line at different times and in different manners. And I loved that, because it really helped illustrate everything you had just gone through as a listener and what they had gone through as the musicians playing it. So yeah, elements of this really reminded me of that sort of those 90s sounds that I alluded to earlier. And I think because that was when it was sort of my second time falling in love with rock and roll, because the first time I fell in rock and roll, I fell in love through with a proxy. Like my dad introduced me to music that he loved, and therefore I inherited the love for it. And it doesn't diminish or make it any different, but this was the like 92 to 96, 97 is really when I was like a young teenager or preteen, falling in love with my own kind of rock and roll that was contemporary to me. So, and this had shades of that, but it also had shades of the stuff that I would grow to love and appreciate over time, which is, shoegaze and kind of like this indie stroke to the music that they had going on in it as well. So all of that really made for a long but very enjoyable listen for me. I really loved the song a lot.
Cool. Excellent. Excellent. I'll get into it in a second. I will say, for me, I'm still sure that I've heard Red House Painters, but I couldn't tell you what I've heard. And this fitted the bill. I knew a little bit more about them than you did. And then doing the research, it all clicked into place. But yeah, this song, I will say, it had a lovely feel and character to it. That's probably what they put above everything else. If you go to different sorts of art, like writing or even sort of TV or film, sometimes things are more character based and then than plot driven. And if you get them and if it clicks with you, they're kind of the most satisfying things there are. Doesn't matter what Philip Marlowe does. If you love Philip Marlowe, it's fucking awesome. It doesn't matter how ridiculous the plots are. And I guess with this, the character of the whole thing really clicked with me. So, and again, the feel of it, and that sort of, you say that's room to breathe, it's really nice. I think they probably did push it. I think 12 is probably, I think if this was 8, it would be spot on. That's just my,
sure.
Just my.
No, I can totally
anyway,
see that.
Red House Painters were an American rock band, formed in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1988.
Wow.
And then they relocated to San Francisco. They are one of the most prominent acts associated with the slowcore / sadcore subgenre. Fucking labels. Anyway,
see, this is one. I come from when these things were becoming. They probably sound so ridiculous to you, these genres and subgenres and stuff, and I totally get it, because now the new ones that are coming out, I'm like, I roll my eyes at. But I would have thought, and I think I said that, I didn't think, I know I said this in the reaction, that I thought that the production quality, everything, I thought it sounded like this was more like 2010-ish, but that they were taking from the original sort of forebears or pioneers of the sound, and then doing their own thing with it as well. Now I'm all that much more impressed to hear that these guys have been around since 1988, because
this track's 1996.
Okay, even still, I mean, that I was off by 20 years, so impressive.
Yeah, here's where it gets interesting. So the members of the band: Mark Kozelek, vocals, guitar, and Medrigas. Kozelek. That's it. Yeah, you may recognize that name. Anthony Koutsos, drums. Jerry Vessel, bass guitar. Gordon Mack, guitar. They were all from 1988 onwards. Gordon Mack left in 95 and was replaced with Phil Carney in 95 on guitar as well. So what happened was, in Atlanta, Kozelek became friends with Koutsos, and after the breakup of his former band, God forbid, that's the name of the band, not me just interjecting, they decided to form a new band, Red House Painters, in 98.
So wait, this is, now it's starting to come back to me that that Red House Painters, where I heard the name from, because we did Sun Kill Moon is his like other name or whatever. Okay, Sun Kill Moon. Yeah. Okay. All right. It's all coming back to floodgates here.
So they're in Atlanta, and they couldn't get arrested. No interest at all. So they moved to California in 89. Mack and Vessel joined the two of them to complete the lineup. And after like a couple of years of gigging and demos, they signed to 4AD in 92 on the strength of a demo tape that was passed to the 4AD boss, Ivo Watts Russell, by American Music Club frontman Mark Eitzel, who is a character as well. But anyway, I don't know if you know American Music Club, but yeah, very interesting. No. So the band released 4 albums with 4AD from 1992 to 95. Songs for Blue Guitar is what this track is taken from, was the 5th studio album by Red House Painters, released in 1996. It is effectively a Mark Kozelek solo album, since no other members of the band are listed in the liner notes at all. He did everything, pretty much. The album introduced heavier electric guitar-driven rock to their sounds and songs like Make Like Paper, and Kozelek's cover of Paul McCartney and Wings' Silly Love Songs, which is another epic. Yeah. So it was recorded while still under contract for AD, but the label chose not to release the album. And eventually the band was released from their contracts. There have been many rumors over the years about the band's departure, and the most popular theory claims that the band was dropped because label president Ivo Watts Russell was unhappy with the sound, particularly the lengthy guitar solos in the tracks Make Like Paper and Silly Love Songs. There was
also, like I could have predicted their reaction.
And apparently in one of the interviews, he said he got the call saying, can you drop all the guitar solos? He said no. The guy said, I want to keep it the same. The guy said, fine, give me 30 grand that we spent on making the album and it's yours. That's, unsubstantiated, but that's another one. But there was also all this, that mid to late 90s, there was all these record label shenanigans, the mergers and all this lot, and lots of bands were cold and dropped and put into, limbo. But anyway, in the end, the album was released shortly after the band signed with Supreme Recordings, a new label owned by filmmaker John Hughes. And it was distributed by Island Records. So there you go.
Awesome.
For the album, Pitchfork gave it a 9 out of 10 score. Sputnik Music scored it 5 out of 5, a classic. There is a lovely review from one of the users, and I didn't copy it down, but it's great because at the end I said, I know this isn't a great review, but I've done my best because I'm only 17 and I haven't got all the words that lots of people have got. But it's just a really sweet review, track by track. It's really cool. Anyway, I thought 17-year-old, you're doing well, mate. All Music wrote, this is quite an interesting little piece for More Music. This is the solo album Kozelek wanted to make masquerading as a Red House Painters album. The benefits that resulted from his freedom from the group setting are evident on this album, compiling a diverse group of styles from gently hypnotic folk and country rock, which is kind of the sound he went to, both slow, Song for a Blue Guitar, and fast, Made Like Paper. I mean, it's all relative fast. I mean, come on.
Maybe comparatively speaking,
so
yeah.
Slow, very slow, obviously. As well as a various selection of covers, mixed with Kozelek's traditional beautiful and sad material, Yes's A Long Distance Runaround, Paul McCartney's Silly Love Song, and The Cars all mixed up, bring light to the Red House Painters' typically shadowy songs. The deep beauty and eclecticism on Songs for Blue Guitar make it another artistic triumph for the Red House Painters. So high praise indeed. Yeah. Right, next to the song. Not that complicated. Quite interesting, poetically. Halloween in New York on the way home from London. 8 weeks on tonight still, but all the other winters I spent. She lived in a house where Mission Street bends. Can I just ask here, because it feels to me, just on the side, Mission Street, I don't know if it's a real place, but it appears in popular culture a lot. I mean, there's a few songs, there's books as well. I don't know if it's a place, if it was just there's lots of places called Mission Street, or is it a famous?
I think there are multiple places called Mission Street, but if I'm not mistaken, there's there's one in New York City that is popular. Yeah.
I know Lord Cole talks about Mission Street, and there's some others as well, and I'm sure there's something in literature, but I can't think of who. It'll come to me later. Anyway, she lived in a house where Mission Street bends. She slept in a room where I didn't feel welcome. Leaves are turning brown all over the ground. Leaves make like paper sounds. And then we have what are my notes I've written: guitar ramble and solo. With even added plinkety plinkety in the middle as well. Then he sort of brings it back. Way back then, I considered you my best friend. But the last time I saw you, I knew I'd never see you again. It's interesting you said about how sort of devastating those lines can be. I think with the added sort of bit to that is it's always great if you don't know why he never sees the other person again. It can be death, it can be a parting of ways, someone's done something bad to the other, betrayal, or just whatever. But it's almost more satisfying if you don't know why, if you know what I mean. And it leaves you up to you to fill in.
Yeah, to fill in. It also becomes more universal and relatable depending on what your narrative is. Also, it just I was thinking, I think there's a Mission District in San Francisco. It's the other way around. There's a Mission District in Brooklyn, New York, and I think Mission Street is one of the famous roads in San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken.
Where the cars all go bumper to bump.
I think so. Well, that's true. Excellent. No matter where in San Francisco, the cars go like this.
Yeah. I've seen the programs. You lived in a place off Chambly-Dunwoody Way. I took up his space when they took your father away. Leaves are turning round all over the ground. Leaves make like paper sounds. And as you say, there's more of this quite short guitar break, or guitar-centric break, I should say. And then that chorus again, leaves are turning round, repeats quite a number of times before the song finishes. Despite, or maybe because of the lengthy guitar jams and cover songs, this album was their biggest seller in the US. Interesting, the band's next album, Old Ramon, was ready for release on Supreme Recordings in early 1998, just as the band was actually starting to dissolve. It just came to a natural end, really. However, it sat in the vaults, this album, for 3 years. So as I alluded to before, like many other alternative rock bands that were signed in the wake of Nirvana's success, we've talked about this before, the group was stuck in limbo during the major label mergers of the late 1990s. Many bands were either dropped or had their recordings held up without the ability to take them elsewhere. Eventually, Kozolek was able to purchase it back and then have it released by Sub Pop in 2001.
No shit.
It wouldn't have happened in 1991, I tell you. There's no way that would have gone Sub Pop. Anyway, so in 2001, coincidentally, Kozolek released his first solo album, which we spoke about very briefly, What's Next to the Moon, which is made up entirely of acoustic covers of Bon Scott era AC/DC songs. And I have downloaded that. And it's all right. It's not... Some of the songs are good. Some of them aren't really hit the spot for me, I think.
He does like to do a lot of covering, it would seem. Like from what you heard before and now this, and what you're revealing with this is interesting.
And just to tie it off, so then he formed Sun Kill Moon in 2003. In 2005 interview with the AV Club, Kozolek confirmed that he considered Sun Kill Moon essentially a continuation of Red House Painters, but that he changed the band name to grab the interest of critics who had got on board with or stopped paying attention to his previous band. So I will wrap things up and say thanks to Andy and Sun Raise One. Thank you so much for suggesting this. This is kind of neat how it all fits in with the stuff we listened to. And although I've murdered his surname many times, it is nice to hear from Mr. Kozolek again. Bless you. So yeah, really, really interesting. I enjoyed this as well. I know you did. Yeah. So fantastic. So folks out there, tell us what you think. If you like this, do hit the like button. After doing your other sort of, praiseworthy ceremony. I don't know if you dance around in your chair or if you make a headdress out of paper. I don't know. Whatever you do after that, hit the like button. If you liked it. Please drop some comments. Let us know what you think about this track, this band, this album, this life, this sceptered isle, whatever. Please just drop the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Makes our day reading them, pretty much. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do, and help support this channel as we grow onwards and upwards. And we're still in the sort of Middle Ages in terms of numbers, but I can't wait till we get to Renaissance, and you can help if you subscribe. I mean, yeah, I just can't wait till we get to Michelangelo and all that sort of interesting stuff. Lots of naked sculptures anyway, but yeah, so please, do subscribe if you haven't already. That being said, thanks again so much for watching, and we'll see all of you in the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.